Ben Shapiro has been very weak lately. Here we see Shapiro levels Biden's Memorial Day speech.
Democracy itself is in peril.
True.
What we do now.
Cast America in the worst possible light so you can call for radical change to the United States.
What radical change? An infrastructure plan? What, the American Families Plan? Replacing lead pipes? Giving Americans union jobs that can't be freaking outsourced? What is Ben Shapiro talking about? Rebuilding our freaking auto industry with electric vehicles? Like, what radical change is Joe Biden using this moment to push forward? Like, I'm 100% sure Ben Shapiro is going to bring up a bunch of culture war bullshit after this, but it's so annoying hearing Republicans constantly talk about freaking culture war issues and never care about policy. Republicans never give a shit about policy. They're too busy restricting rights for freaking trans people across America, restricting, the right to choose across America. All the culture war bullshit they focus on, it's never anything of substance. And Donald Trump, does anybody remember Trump's freaking inauguration speech? It sounded like a war was about to happen. The way Trump was talking about our country, he was basically saying, like, there's a dark cloud over our land that we need to defeat. The evil is rising up, and we can, like, literally Trump was talking like that.
It's a ploy. It's a ploy. That is what Joe Biden is doing right now. So yesterday, on Memorial Day, and we're supposed to be paying tribute to the fallen soldiers who have given the last full measure of devotion for their country. A fact that should leave us in awe and should remind us of the freedoms for which they fought.
Instead, and Joe Republicans just denied the January 6th commission that would have investigated what happened January 6th at our nation's capital as a result of Trump denying the results of our election. One of actually probably the most just war in American history was World War II. The most unjust war was, I think, the invasion of Iraq. But the most just war we ever fought in was World War II. And the reason it was so just and, justified is because it was a fundamental fight of fascism versus democracy. Like a FDR style, liberal democracy and civil liberties versus fascist populist leaders like Hitler and Mussolini. It was a fight for the entire globe. And rejecting right now the January 6th commission is disrespectful of our soldiers throughout American history, because what they fought for, if we want to talk about freedom and democracy and stuff, what they fought for is fighting against people who want to reject elections, people like Trump who want to rely on anti-intellectualism, and people like Trump who want to use populist energy to sow discontent about our country and distrust of our election systems. Rejecting Trump is pro-soldier. So on Memorial Day, forgetting those key features of what actually makes our country and our democracy what it is anti-soldier, if you really want to go there.
And use Memorial Day, not just to pay tribute, which he did, but also to then turn and use that tribute as a way to club his political opposition. So he said the democracy is in peril at home. This is what he was saying on Memorial Day yesterday. Now, let's be real about this. Democracy is not in peril at home. Okay, I understand. A lot of people, including me, thought that the sites of January 6th were egregious and abhorrent and disgusting. Also, democracy was not in peril. It was not. The election was certified. All the people who did what they were supposed to do did what they were supposed to do. They went and they voted and they certified the election. More people voted in the last elections. I know we're supposed to forget all this. There was greater turnout in last year's election cycle than any election in American history in absolute numbers, and an extraordinarily high percentage turnout as well. We had something
It did not happen this time. Therefore, there is no danger. The bullet missed my head by a good 6 inches. There's no way it could have hit me, of course.
155 million people vote in the United States. That does not look like democracy in peril to me. We're not at risk of Syrian-style democracy with 95%.
The election is still being challenged by the Republican Party. The voters think the election was fraudulent. In Arizona, they were pushing the entire recount thing. When conspiracy dominates an entire political party in a two-party system, that's a big deal that inherently threatens democracy. When you have people in the military talking about the white replacement theory, Trump's appointees were speaking about the white replacement theory. One of his West Point people was talking about that. When you have Michael Flynn calling for a coup to happen in the U.S., like what happened in Myanmar, like when this stuff is going on, your democracy is in peril. If there's no trust in your democracy, that democracy is in grave danger.
Of people voting for one party or another, doesn't matter. Here's Joe Biden suggesting that democracy is in peril here at home.
Democracy. And the entire Republican Party still is willing to go along with Trump because their political incentives lead them in that direction. They are doing very dangerous things because of their political incentives. And that, that pure coward These people are just cowards that will let something terrible happen to save their political careers.
Itself is in peril, here at home and around the world. What we do now, how we honor the memory of the fallen, will determine whether or not democracy will long endure.
And I hate the idea on Memorial Day that all you should do is put up your little post like, oh my God, thank you, troops. I saw so many people virtue signaling over that Kamala Harris freaking tweet when she said have a nice long weekend or whatever. So many people virtue signaled over that. Trump has said that. Trump has went so deep into disgracing Memorial Day, and it was never called out. All these people just care about virtue signaling. It's the equivalent of like posting a black square for like BLM. You're not actually doing anything to serve the greater cause. You're not doing anything to help our democracy. You're not doing anything to help our soldiers. So they refuse to. And I know Ben Shapiro's not that dumb. I'm completely sure he's a grifter. I think like Candace Owens is really dumb. Maybe she is dumb and a grifter. But I think Ben Shapiro is knowingly an agent of chaos, if I'm being honest.
Take it for granted. We think we learn in school. Every generation has to fight for it.
Okay, so what does he mean by that? He means that Texas is passing a voting law. Texas attempted to pass a voting law.
Did he talk about Texas? There is a lot of stuff happening in the U.S. other than that Texas bill that got delayed.
Law is not, in fact, a wildly discriminatory law, despite the fact that Joe Biden is going to portray it as such. The goal here for Joe Biden is to say that democracy is in danger. It's in danger from a bunch of white racists, and you need me to solve all of those problems. Give me and the federal government more power over your lives.
Nope, not white racists, white nationalists, people who are willing to use divisions in our society to get populist energy riled up so they can use that to, like I said, hurt our democracy. Because people like Trump only care about power, and they will chase power no matter what. They are egomaniacs, crazy narcissists. They don't care what happens as long as they have their egos fed. And that's why Trump is still talking about possibly being reinstated to the presidency.
You need to, in order to avoid authoritarianism, what you need to do is pass all of your power to a federal government to run every aspect of your life. If that sounds like a bad deal to you,
nobody ever said that at all. Can Ben Shapiro name the policy he's talking about here?
That's because you've been following the argument. Here is Joe Biden ripping on the voting laws in Texas.
Democracy thrives when the infrastructure of democracy is strong. When people have the right to vote freely and fairly and conveniently. When a free and independent press pursues the truth.
You know what that Texas voting bill does, right? So you can't vote as early as usual. It cuts off early voting hours. It really hurts drive-through. Wait, doesn't it ban drive-through voting? Which is insane. There's no arguments against that whatsoever. It clamps down more on voting by mail. That was an entire conspiracy. And by the way, if you are somebody who if you claim to care about working class Americans, people who need to work 40 through 60 hours a week to provide for their families, if you claim to care about them and you claim to care about democracy, you should not make it harder to vote. It should not be difficult to vote in America. It should not be a strain on somebody's life. They should not have to get somebody to watch their, people are freaking busy, dude. It shouldn't be harder to vote. And they are literally doing things just to limit democracy because Republicans can't do anything else to win elections because they don't run on any policies. They rely on the culture war and they rely on hurting the democratic process to win. And already in the Senate, I bring this number up a lot. The 50 Democratic senators represent 40 million more people than the 50 Republican senators do. Because it's 2 senators per state, and all the low population red states get 2 senators by default, while California and New York, which are Democratic, only get 2 senators. So isn't it like in the Senate, isn't it like 1 vote from Montana equals like 1,000 votes from California? So if you are from Montana voting for a senator, you have more power with your vote than like 1,000 Californians, which is insane. It is an attack on democracy. And all this stuff is happening through the legislative process. This is not even getting into what Trump is doing on the outside, what people like Hawley and Cruz have done on the outside. to try and delegitimize what our democracy actually is and what the facts are of the last election and moving forward. Like 2022, 2024, Republicans, if they're in power, do you think they're ever going to certify a Democrat winning an election again if it's not like beyond, if the result isn't beyond doubt, if the result is anywhere within like 5 percentage points? Hell no, dude. They're going to drag this out as far as they freaking can. No matter what their goal is to get power and to keep that power, no matter what it takes, no matter what about our country and our democracy, they destroy in the process. They don't give a shit.
On facts, not propaganda. When the rule of law applies equally and fairly to every citizen, regardless of where they come from, what they look like.
I mean, it's just Orwellian stuff from President Houseplants over here. When the media operate freely and fairly, and the media are in his corner, and social media shut down stories that are...
He didn't... Is Ben Shapiro not going to talk about what the Texas bill actually did? Is he not going to go into any of these points at all or elaborate on literally anything? He's going into another topic right now about the media so he can talk about a culture war issue and just, vaguely point a conspiracy.
Here, when the media operate freely and fairly, and the media are in his corner, and social media shut down stories that are unpalatable to the Biden administration.
What stories?
When people can vote
Do you have
freely
examples?
and fairly, right now he's attempting to federalize election law.
What?
I mean, it truly is incredible stuff.
What law? What arguments are you trying to make?
This is a ploy. It's a ploy. Cast America in the worst possible light so you can call for radical change to the United States. That is what Joe Biden is doing.
What radical change did Biden push for, even once? He's like, all right, guys, Biden's coming up here. He's like, all right, I think we should do an infrastructure program. That's a pretty popular thing. We should probably fix some roads. We should focus on some electric vehicles. Those are pretty cool. They go vroom. Those are pretty cool. We got to invest in the American economy, give Americans more jobs. These jobs can't be outsourced. And also, by the way, Republicans, can you guys please stop taking away individual freedoms from people? Hey, Republicans, can you not make it harder to vote? Hey, Republicans, can you not restrict access for poor people to vote? Can you just not do that? And Ben Shapiro's over here shitting the bed. Like, oh my God, Joe Biden's going to transform the entire country to freaking Marxism. Freaking Joe Biden is one of the most bland forms of Christian democracy that you can find. All he wants to do is reject the radical right illiberal faction in America right now that is authoritarian and wants to overthrow democracy. That's all Joe Biden wants to do. He's not a crazy radical social. That's laughable to say Joe Biden he's seizing on some type of moment to institute crazy sweeping policies, and Ben Shapiro can't name one.
Right now.
Because he knows the policies are popular. He knows expanding a public option is popular. He knows the infrastructure bill is popular. He knows the American Families Plan is popular. He knows all of this. He can't bring up any actual specifics or he'll get freaking BTFO'd.
America in the worst possible light so you can call for radical change to the United States. That is what Joe Biden is doing right now. Now, what does that mean in practical terms? Well, it means in Texas, an anti-democratic move. So the same people who are complaining that democracy is under threat, they just walked out of a session in Texas to stop a law from being passed. This is the Texas voter law. What exactly does that encompass? According to the Wall Street Journal, as the Texas legislative session drew near its end on Sunday, lawmakers appeared set to pass a bill overhauling the state's elections until Democrats did one final maneuver. They sneaked out of the building.
Is he going to talk at all about what was imagine you're in a democracy. And the Republican Party passes a law that only Republicans can vote in the upcoming election. And Democrats are like, wait, no, this isn't good. And they walk out. You would think they're justified in doing that. But, Ben Shapiro, we know
Members, take your key and leave the chamber discreetly, a Democratic leader in the State House told his caucus in a 10:35 p.m. text message. The extraordinary move deprived the House of a
Because we know it's the political science thing everybody knows. If turnout's high, Democrats are probably going to win more because more people are Democratic, but it's hard for them all to vote a lot of times. So you want to remove barriers to entry for elections because if more people vote, then Democrats are probably going to win more. That's why Republicans just hate democracy altogether because they know they are down in our country. The Electoral College, if a Republican president ever wins again, they're never gonna win the popular vote and the Electoral College. It's not gonna happen. They can only win the Electoral College. They need a handicap to even be in the competition anymore.
Or I'm killing the bill for now at the cost of undermining the legislative process. But what do you expect after months of Democratic alarms about voter suppression?
By the way, freaking Joe Manchin and Sinema, I know they said that there's probably good. Oh my God, we can't kill the filibuster, guys. We can't kill the filibuster. Joe Manchin said this because you know what? I believe in democracy. I think there are 10 good Republicans in the Senate that will vote with us on some things. Guess what? No matter what it is, if Biden proposes $2 trillion to go straight to American workers, the freaking Senate Republicans propose $4 million. After Biden proposes $2 billion or $2 trillion, they'll undercut it so bad. And all these voting things are coming out to kill democracy. And people like Joe Manchin are preventing Democrats from operating at the freaking national level to do anything about it. Even though, you know, Democrats, if you look at the popular vote for the last election, Democrats kind of won by like 8 million votes, right?
President Biden on Saturday called the Texas plan un-American and part of an assault on democracy.
It is.
Now, he'd already said that Georgia's law was like Jim Crow, which of course is insane. The reality, according to the Wall Street Journal, is more prosaic.
Ben Shapiro doesn't think racism ever existed in American history. He thinks like racism is only when you have slaves. After slavery ended, then everything was fixed, guys. The laws don't say black people are subhuman anymore. So therefore, it's all fixed. It's all fixed.
Start with the controversial. The 67-page bill would roll back COVID-19 innovations like Harris County's drive-through voting and 24-hour voting. Those options were...
Okay, I want to hear Ben Shapiro's argument against drive-through voting. And Texas is one of the states that limited frickin' voter drop-offs or, drop-off bins or whatever for no reason. No matter what Republicans do, it's never motivated by fact or logic or any principle. It's never motivated by that. It's all motivated by political intentions. That's all they care about is the political power gain. They never do anything based off fact. Holy crap, dude. These national Republicans and state Republicans from these states, they live in conspiracy. They will literally let their own communities die and suffer because they don't want to give a win to Joe Biden. Do you know how much Joe Biden's infrastructure plan would help 75% conservative areas like mine? In rural America? Are you freaking kidding me? Do you think a private company is going to invest in the middle of freaking nowhere in Pennsylvania? A private company is not going to save us, Ben. They're not investing anywhere. There's nothing around here. It's a bunch of old coal mines. There's fires underground everywhere. Nobody's bringing money here. We're going to need something to happen with our government where they bring in union jobs to work on things like roads and bridges. Joe Biden said he wants wind turbines to be built in like Pittsburgh. That's a goal to strive for. America should be the leader in green energy and other things like that. That's where the world is going. Why is France and Germany kicking our asses with green energy? Why is China beating us with green energy when we should be ahead when it comes to that? Green energy is an existential thing. When it comes to investments, that's one of the smartest freaking things you can do. Even according to, let's drop anything about the government. Even if you want to use your government to gear the free market towards that direction, that's a smart thing to do. But Ben Shapiro, he's not even a capitalist, dude. He's the F word, a fascist.
Were used disproportionately last year by black and Hispanic residents. But when did emergency procedures amid a 100-year pandemic suddenly become the new baseline? It's hardly crazy to think polling place shenanigans might be more likely at 3 a.m. The bill also says that on the last Sunday of early voting, polling places may not...
What do you mean polling place shenanigans? What do you think they're going to... What? See what I mean? It all appeals to emotion. He's not going to bring up any facts. Imagine at 3 a.m. there are 6 people rolling up to the polling station. They're all black. They're all going to vote at 3 a.m. Oh no. Somebody that needs to work the night shift. They sleep like during the day or whatever. Just think of any scenario. It shouldn't even be a question, dude. It shouldn't even be a question. It shouldn't even be a debate. He's just fear mongering about this because Ben Shapiro doesn't want black people to vote. That's what it is. He doesn't want Hispanic people to vote. He wants only white conservatives to be able to vote. That's what Ben Shapiro wants. That's his democracy right there. He wants to go back to when landowners and property owners could vote and no one else could. That's Ben Shapiro's ideal democracy right there. That's what he wants.
Open until 1 p.m. This is a political mistake at minimum, in that it's being spun as an attack on black churches that have a souls to the polls tradition. One lawmaker supporting the bill argued those election workers want to go to church too, but some people take care of their religious obligations on Saturdays, and in any event, Texas repealed most of its blue laws in 1985. Lawmakers would be wise to drop this provision. Texas still offers 2 weeks of early voting. Delaware doesn't have any early voting until 2022, and then it'll get 10 days. The Texas bill raises the number of minimum hours. Mail ballots and applications would ask for a state ID number or the last 4 digits of a social security number. That, of course, is just to verify that people are who they say they are. This notion that that this bill is somehow a racist return to Jim Crow or an attempt to shut down democracy.
Shapiro's not a capitalist. Biden is more of a capitalist than Ben Shapiro. What Ben Shapiro supports is actively hurting capitalism. What Trump supports, Trump is actively hurting capitalism. It's not good for capitalism to destabilize democracy. It's not good for anybody. Profits don't do good when your country falls. When your government gets cooed. That doesn't work well. That's one of the reasons all these corporations came out for Democrats. and they started supporting Biden's like higher tax raises and stuff. They realized they sort of hit like a breaking point. They couldn't push it any further. The Trump experiment kind of failed. They couldn't push any more in that direction. They had to back off it a little bit. Capitalism doesn't mean you're like a free market crazy libertarian, ANCAP or whatever. You can be a capitalist and be for like a big social, like that's actually a key feature of capitalist is a big social safety net and all that stuff. Giving more people access to participate in the system. Like that's what Joe Biden wants. Ben Shapiro isn't a capitalist. He doesn't even make arguments based on policy or anything.
It's just a lie from Joe Biden, who again is the head of a party in which Texas Democratic lawmakers literally walked out of a chamber to deny a quorum so that democracy could not operate, and then called for the federal government to intervene in state business from the top. Meanwhile, declaring Republicans the authoritarians. Pretty amazing stuff. The bill would change the legal standard for proving fraud from a preponderance of the evidence from clear and convincing evidence. If the number of illegal votes matched the margin, courts could throw out a race without showing that fraud changed the result. Critics say this is a pander to Trump, but Trump lost in 2020 under either standard. Whether the new rules are too lax is a judgment call. Imagine a race decided by 50 votes with 51 illegal ballots detected. Did more slip through? Perhaps the best thing for public confidence would be to redo the election. The bottom line is that the attempt to castigate this bill as something horrifying is ridiculous, but this is exactly what Democrats are trying to do. Here's a Democratic representative named Mark Vise over the weekend saying that this bill is like Zimbabwe.
When you say that you can overturn an election based on crazy tropes and racial stereotypes about Texas citizens, it's just absolutely insane that they're even thinking about that. And so imagine any close race that Republicans wanted to go and overturn, they would be able to do so with that provision. And that's not something that happens in our country. That's something that you think about happening, in Zimbabwe.
Okay, which provision is this? I'm trying to find the actual wording.
He's speaking from the federal Congress, where Nancy Pelosi literally held up for months the seating of an Iowa congressperson who was elected by 6 votes in a Republican race. Okay, she held it up.
Wait. 6 votes? 6? Did he say 6? 6? Isn't 6 a little bit different from like 50,000? Did he just
This is all just power games, and it's all masks for power games. And the mask that is currently being adopted by the Democrats is that America is a deeply racist place. Just look at American history. You don't have to pay attention to what's happened in the intervening time. You don't have to pay attention to America on the ground today. Exacerbate racial divisions for purposes of political game. That is the game right here. We're in a battle for the culture and for our values.
Literally, at the end. We are in a battle for our culture and our values. Dog whistle.